Hey there, I'm Mel Abraham, the author of The Entrepreneur Solution and the founder of Business Breakthrough Academy, where we teach you how to design a business and create a life of financial freedom and peace of mind. And welcome back to this episode of the Entrepreneur Solution Show. And in this episode, we're going to investigate and look at how do you motivate people? How do you what are they looking for? And we've heard about the concept of really money's not the greatest motivator. And so when we come back from this brief introduction, we'll dig into what I call the pride cycle and what that will do for your team. But not only for your team, for your family members. I'm going to tell you a story about a 16-year-old boy and what was driving him and how it touched my heart and made me really reflect on some of these concepts and in doing that. So right after we come back from this brief introduction, we will jump right into it. And in this process, there is a downloadable tool. It's called the Pride Advantage. Go ahead and you can get the Pride Advantage by going to melabraham.com/session042. And if you're not by your computer, you're running, you're doing things, and you're out, just go ahead and text me. Text me at 38470. Just send my legacy, one word, no spaces, and we'll make sure we get you the proper download link. And I'll see you back here right after this brief introduction. See you soon.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Solution, where highly successful entrepreneur Mel Abraham becomes your entrepreneurial mentor. Here, Mel reveals his business building strategies and even gets a chance to answer your questions. Mel Abraham, a CPA by education, but an entrepreneur by exhilaration, and a true believer in the entrepreneurial way of life. It's through entrepreneurship that we create community, support society, and live our dreams. It's where possibility meets reality again, and you can have the life and lifestyle you want, one of freedom and peace of mind. Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur Solution, where it's time for you to be bold, dream big, and live life your way.
Hey there and welcome back. I'm Mel Abraham, the founder of Business Breakthrough Academy and the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Entrepreneur's Solution. And welcome back to this episode of the Entrepreneur Solution Show. And as I said, we're going to investigate what drives people, a little bit of what drives people. And there's a lot of literature and writings and great books like Drive out there that will go deeper into this, but I just want to kind of give you a thought of what I'm dealing with or what I'm thinking in the context, because in the entrepreneur space, you're constantly dealing with staff or contractors, and how do you reward, how do you do that, and the concept of bonuses and things of those types of rewards. And the interesting thing is that money is the most basic, the most elemental level of reward. And it's been said and even shown, if you look at even Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's been around for a long time, that once our basic needs, our basic monetary needs are met, that doesn't necessarily have the same incentive. That doesn't necessarily have the same drive. It doesn't drive us the same as other elements in our life will drive us in doing that. So we need to kind of get past that fundamental level of monetary reward as the foundation for all rewards. And so I'm going to assume in this episode that your basic needs are met, or your team's basic needs are met, or the people that we're talking about, their basic needs are met. But because I think that there's actually a deeper need than that, and a deeper reward than that, a greater motivator than that when we look at it. And it's like, because if we focus on the money piece of it, if we focus just on the money pieces of it, we're like on this assembly line of life, and it's based on doing tasks, getting paid, doing tasks, getting paid, doing tasks, getting paid. And we lose all inspiration, we lose all aspiration, we lose all creativity because we become lemmings on that assembly line. But what I found is that when I connect with the things that my team and my customers and my executives and the board of directors the different boards of directors that I work with, what I find is that when we connect with something that they're proud of, and we start to run what I call the pride cycle, that starts to drive them. That starts to drive them more than any kind of monetary reward ever will. Once we know that the fundamental level of the things that we've taken care of are already taken care of. And I get it that people may say, well, pride isn't the universal motivator, and I totally agree. It may not be the universal motivator, but it is one of the motivators, and it's one of the things that I want to kind of talk about today in this episode and give you a breakdown. And I don't typically do a whole lot of acronyms, but actually in this one I think that it fits, and it's the acronym that I have for what I call PROUD. And so when you look at PROUD, I think that one of the things that we need to look at is what is it? What does it mean? And I think the first part of this is really about having a positive impact. And it's about having a positive impact, not really just, not solely on their lives. It's actually a positive impact on those around them, the customers they're dealing with, the people they're dealing with, the team members they're dealing with, their families' lives, to know that what they do matters in a positive way. And when we can frame our rewards, when we can frame a conversation, when we can frame a job description around that positive impact, people start to get magnetized. They start to get attracted to that process. The second piece of this is what I call recognition. People want to be appreciated. People want to be recognized. And this whole process came about because of a 16-year-old boy that came into my karate school. He actually had trained with me for many, many years, and he was preparing for his black belt test. And it was a couple months out from his black belt test. He's training really hard. He's probably training 2 to 3 hours a day with me and with some of the instructors to get him prepared for what's going to be a 5-hour test, a test of his soul, a test of his spirit, a test of his discipline, a test of his determination. And he came in, he says, "I need to talk to you, Sensei." And I said, "Great, come on in." And this great kid with a great heart. And he looks at me and he says, I don't know how to say this. And all of a sudden he starts to break into tears. And I said, what's going on? And he says, my dad. Now, I'm going to put aside my judgment with respect to parenting here, being a single full-time dad, raising my son and understanding some of these dynamics. But I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective. And I said, what's with your dad? Now, his dad I knew was a hard driver. He was a entrepreneur himself. He was achievement focused more than anything else. He wasn't relationship focused per se. And he said, I just want him to say that he's proud of me. And I sat there. I mean, my heart sunk for this kid, for Brad. And I looked at Brad and I said, you know what? I get it. He's your dad and you want him to be proud of you. But, it made me realize how important it is for us to recognize people, us to pat someone on the back, for us to turn around and say, you got it. You got this. And I struggled with how to deal with this with him without saying negative things about his dad, except to say that he's on a journey, and that it's a journey that his dad doesn't understand. But it is a journey that the panel of black belts understand. And that the people that are going to sit in front of him for this test have gone through the same blood, the same sweat, the same tears. We understand the threshold he's going to cross over. Then there's hundreds and hundreds of years of experience of being on that mat, not only with him, but before him. And that pride and that honor is there for him. And I often wonder, in your business, in the things that you're doing, in your family, when's the last time that you recognized someone, to be able to show gratitude and pride, to look at your spouse and say, you know what, thank you, no matter how little it was, to say thank you, to say to recognize them, and see what that does to fuel everything going forward. And these are lessons that I had to learn along the way, because I was a hard driving entrepreneur. When I first started decades ago, I was not a great leader. I was not a great manager. I was not looking at it from the personal perspective. I was looking at it from the productivity perspective. Produce, 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 produce. The funny thing is, when you take the personal and make it personal, and you connect with them, and you care, and you recognize, and you appreciate, and you show gratitude, they do produce. And they produce at levels that you would not imagine. So I think people are looking for recognition for what they do. The second is that they're looking for something outside of them. To know that as much as they want that paycheck, or they want some other reward, as much as they want that, they want to know that what they do is affecting others in a positive way. And then beyond that, they want to know that they're in the battle with the army. They are in this journey. They're on this mission. They are on a vision that is meaningful, that unifies them on a purpose. We call it in Business Breakthrough Academy a global purpose statement, a rallying cry for why we're there, why we exist, what it is we're there to do. And so, ask yourself for a moment, what is your unifying cry? What is your purpose? What is that mission that you can get people to glom onto, that you can attract people in an aspirational way, in an inspirational way, to know that as they march down that road, not only does the mission and the purpose of your organization, of your entrepreneurial endeavor, of your business come to fruition, so does theirs. And the last piece of this is that they want to know that they're growing. They want to know that they're developing. They want to know that there's a process there for them to become more. And I look at Bradley again and in this process, and I talked with him about his journey to his black belt and how that plays out. Well, positive impact from his perspective. He's out there. One of the things that we did for all our black belts is that in order for them to test for black belt, they had to do at least one day of community service. Not only do the community service, but to write about it, to write about how that impacted their life and how they were going to carry that impact forward and pay it forward. And so, looking at him, because of the kind of man he became in the process. And by the way, he did pass his black belt test with flying colors, an amazing young man in college today, doing some great things. And he is having a positive impact. He was recognized greatly in that process and getting his black belt, not by just the panel, but everyone that was in attendance, the witnesses that were there, the audience that was there to see that. And he carries that with him proudly, day in, day out, because you know what? He knows it wasn't handed to him. It was 7 years of hard work and a 5-hour test where he had nothing left at the end but his heart and soul. And we put it out there on the mat and allowed him to do that. He's doing things outside himself. This got him to realize that he can be more. And so during his time now, he's volunteering, he's helping others, he's working with kids, and doing things outside himself. And he feels like he's driven by a mission, by a purpose to have an impact, to take kids that are having challenges, that having challenges in belonging, and giving them a place to feel comfortable, to feel safe to grow. And in that process, he's developing himself. He's developing his leadership skills. He's developing his communication skills. He's developing his physical skills in the process. And so that's what drives him. And in that process, we start to understand this concept of what I call the pride cycle. And when we see this in play, and we bring that into what I call the pride advantage, now we start to frame things in a way that start to drive people, that start to move people in a direction that's meaningful. So let's look at the pride cycle real quick. Now, I don't have a lot of time to go deeper into it as I would in some of our mentoring programs. I've got my Titans Think Tank and Thoughtpreneur Academy coming up, and we go into some of these things in a little more depth. But one of the first things that come about is this anticipation of something new. You know, when something is coming about that you're thinking about doing, there's this nervous anticipation that comes about. In fact, I'm going out and doing something I've never done before coming up in a few weeks, and someone else said, "So how you feeling?" I said, "I'm anxiously excited." And he said, "Perfect. That's exactly where you need to be." And I think that anticipation, the cool thing is that anticipation brings with it an energy, this electrified energy of excitement that you bring to the game, to bring to whatever it is. And maybe it's an anticipation of a new job description, a new job level, a new promotion. Maybe it's a new endeavor. Maybe it's a new love. These principles may be business principles, but they're universal in many cases. So that generates a level of energy, which from there brings commitment. You then commit that energy and commit to the process as you move forward. And when you think about trying something new or doing something, you'll see this process play out, and it is a process, it is universal, and it is happening. Now, we can choose to make it happen intentionally, or we can just let it happen on its own. But I think that we're best served to do it intentionally, to see how that will serve us. Because once we make the commitment, now we get all the action behind it. And when the action is put in play, and you'll see that I do a lot of things in what I call 90-90, 90 days, 90 minutes, 90 days, 90 minutes. Let's just look at things in 90-day, 13-week sprints. So what's the actions I need to take in those 90 days to move myself forward to get some level of results? Now, I'm going to get a result either way. The interesting thing is that it may or may not be the result that I'm looking for, but it's a result nonetheless. And so many people struggle with, God, I don't want to make a decision. I want to make a decision. I want to make a wrong decision. I want to make a wrong decision. But the fact is a decision doesn't set your feet in concrete. Many people have heard me say that very few choices and decisions you make in business are terminal. They're simply a point on a continuum. And we make the decision in order to not get necessarily a result, but to get feedback so we can make a better, more informed decision. And when we get those results, we then need to reflect on what happened. Is that what we wanted? If that's what we wanted, let's expand it, let's elevate it, let's escalate it. If it's not, we need to make some changes. And so when we look at this, we got to recognize what happened. Now, if I'm working with a team member, even if we didn't get the result we want, I want to still give them recognition for the successes that they made. If we don't do that, what happens is, if all we do is point out the negative, this is the problem that I think with a lot of the 360 feedback loops and all that, because what they do is they set a mindset of looking for things that are wrong. Well, what about looking for things that went right? At least give them the celebration of the many successes that will fuel them. And I think that many successes are like a relay race. We're passing the baton. Okay? But if we slap them down at every time and always focus on the negative, always focus on the failures, always focus on the disappointments, it's like dropping the baton. You're out of the race. I want to keep them in the race. I want to keep them motivated and going. I'm not saying not to deal with the lessons, the drivers, the challenges. But I am saying that make sure that we're balanced and recognize the wins. What were the great things that came out? Now adjust it and look forward and do it again. And it's a cycle, because once we get the adjustment, we've got new information, we start to move forward, we look at things with new anticipation, we have more energy, we make a commitment to a new action, we take the actions, we get more results, we reflect, we recognize, we adjust again. That's what your day is like as an entrepreneur. But you know what? That's what your day is like as an individual. As you meet someone, as you create relationships, come at it with that anxious anticipation, that positive energy, and be committed to being present in the process, taking action that feeds their soul, that is meaningful to them to see what happens in that relationship. And always reflect on what it is you've done. And if you talk to my wife, she'll agree with this. I'm certainly not perfect. I don't get this right every time. And I am learning each and every day. And recognize them with gratitude. Adjust and keep going. And that's the pride cycle. I think this is the fuel that can drive your team. This is the fuel that can drive your relationships to a much deeper level of commitment, level of aspiration, level of inspiration, and move them further than simply a paycheck. So I hope you found this of value. Go ahead and download the Pride Advantage tool. Go to melabraham.com/session042. And again, if you're not at your computer and you can't download it right now, that's fine. Just text me. Text my legacy, one word, to 38470. I'll make sure that I send you the download link. And do me a favor. Would you share this with a friend? I'd love to get this information into a lot more people's hands. I want them to have the tools to grow their life, to grow their business, to grow their dreams in a way that they never imagined was possible. So if you can, share this with a friend. Share it with a bunch of friends for that matter. And make sure that you've subscribed. Make sure you subscribe because I'm putting a lot of information out there to try and help you out. And if you have questions, if you have comments, questions, or anything, you can always reach me at askmelnow.com. Leave me your question. I'll make sure it gets on one of the upcoming episodes. And until we get a chance to see each other again, make sure that you live the pride cycle. Make sure that you do things that fulfill the PROUD acronym. And go out there. And may your vision be grand, your journey epic, and your legacy significant. See you soon. Cheers. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe so you get access to all of Mel's business and success tips. And if you like this episode, share it with a friend. If you have a specific business or success question, you can ask it at www.askmelnow.com. Remember, it's all about being bold, dreaming big, and living life your way. Because the world needs you. Until the next episode, may your vision be grand, your journey epic, and your legacy significant.